Okay, welcome everybody to our second to last office hours session. And office hours has always been designed to be, a question and answer period that is kind of open. Did get some questions about how to output some comment strings. So we're going to look at doing that, and we're going to take a look at a couple of things over the next several office hours sessions. So really we've got about kind of 5 hours of class left. We're going to do about 2.5 hours today, and then next Saturday we're going to do another 2.5 hours. And what I'm really trying to focus on for you guys is the tool change events. So what happens at the tool change? How do you know when you're in a tool change? How do you know when you're not in a tool change? And the tool list. So there is a tool table mechanism. A lot of the stuff that is available in MP has been there for a long, long time, because the way that MP DLL was structured meant that we were limited in the way that we looked at the data. That is kind of being changed over the last couple of versions to give us some new tools to dig into the post. But really, we've got to, I personally have to use some of those tools and get comfortable with, with how they work in order to feel comfortable teaching them. So it's a new learning period for me as well when we talk about some of the new stuff. If you look at the MP documentation, you're going to see the Working with Tool and Operation Parameters Application Guide. And right next to it, Working with Tool and Operation Parameters Application Guide, in parentheses, X9. And the difference between these two documents is pretty profound. They've got some new tools that go with what we call the enhanced tool table. Currently, we're going to look in this class at existing posts. So what is in the existing post? And that's always kind of my go-to question. I've pulled up a Windows Explorer window and navigated to public documents. So C drive, users, public documents, shared MCAM 2018, MIL posts. And what you can see is that I installed Mastercam with the default settings. And they are no longer installing all of the default post processors that we used to get. And I believe much of that decision is based around combating piracy. One of the great things about Mastercam since it was started has been the openness and the availability of post processors. In fact, this class is based around the fact that the post processors are documented and open. We have this, wonderful resource that tells us how the software works, and we are allowed to create post processors and do whatever we want with them. I get the feeling that at some point in the future that may change with Mastercam. Now, I don't know for certain, but I know, for example, that if you look at the Mastercam MIL Turn product, you must have a developer license to be able to edit the post processor. That mechanism uses MP.NET, which is their new posting language that is coming down the pipe. My guess is we're still probably 8 to 10 years away from commercial implementation of that. So I would say that the MP language itself is probably going to be around for another 20 years by the time they kill it off. So it's still got a lot of application left to it, but as you can see with shared MCAM 2018, they're not really releasing all of their default stuff anymore. They're kind of forcing you to go to your reseller and make a request. Hopefully, those posts will still be free in their generic form for the foreseeable future. But, I have absolutely no idea what their plan is going forward. If we look at the mill posts folder from 2017 and compare it to 2018, you'll notice that there is a whole lot of default stuff that they give you, in the older versions of Mastercam. Now, part of their reasoning here, honestly, may also be because they are taking all of these older post processors and hooking them up to the machine definition. So one of the things that's always been kind of interesting and or frustrating about using post processors with Mastercam is that when Mastercam version 9 was around, okay, not X9, but version 9 or even version 8 or version 7, way back in the 1990s, when we were working with post processors, then there was only the PST file that you had to worry about. So you could have all of your settings contained in one location. When Mastercam X came about, they introduced the concept of the machine definition and the control definition. And much like on the real machines in the real world, you can have two similar machines that aren't exactly the same, but they may have very similar controls. So they had this idea that we were going to have machine definitions, and the machine definition had all the settings for your machine that you would need. And then that machine definition would link to a control definition, and in fact, you could have potentially many machine definitions linked to the same control definition. Now, in practice, that gets to be a little difficult to maintain. And in the real world, most people have a single machine definition, control definition, and post processor for every machine on the shop floor. That's kind of the recommended best practice, because trying to organize and maintain all of the links between all of the settings and the posts can become a full-time job if you have a lot of machines and you're trying to do it all with their technique of linking multiple posts to a single control definition. So when we look at the structure of this, if I go in and I load, the default mill machine in Mastercam, and we go to the machine group properties and the files section, here we get this dialog and it shows us the machine that we have loaded. So it's the default mill from MCAM, mill default.mcam-mmd. Control is the default.mcam-control, and then it lists the posts. And in this case, the post is mpfan.pst for 2017, because that's the version we're in. When we load a machine definition into Mastercam, Mastercam makes a copy of the machine and a copy of the control definition data, and it loads it into your Mastercam file. And the reason it does that is so we can make file-specific changes. For example, if I go in and I click edit on the machine, this is the machine control data.
No.